Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Thursday, the 24th of February. It's game day. I'm Derek Clark. I'm joined by Joshua Barrie. How are we doing, Joshua?
Yeah, good day. It's snowing in Glasgow, so
Yes.
it's going to be quite the conditions tonight. Again, I said last week that I think every Rangers game I've been to this year has been terrible weather, and tonight is continuing with that trend. So I'll have my thermals on, be wrapped up, and hopefully, progression for Rangers in the Europa League.
Yeah, if you're making your way to the game tonight, folks, just take extra care. I'm told that the roads are a tad precarious, to say the least. If you're watching this for the first time, if you've not hit that subscribe button on YouTube, if you do so, it means that you'll never miss a video when we go live. And if you want to take advantage of the site as well, I'd very much urge you to do so. You'll find content on there that you wouldn't find anywhere else. Just head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe. Just £2.99 a month to support top quality journalism covering the club you love. Okay, then. Well, football sort of pales into insignificance when we see the horrible events taking place in Ukraine at the moment, Joshua. But Rangers do have a game tonight against Borussia Dortmund. It's a monumental game in terms of prestige, I guess. If they defeat Dortmund, I said yesterday, it's up there with Parma, Leeds United, Dynamo Kiev for me. How do you see this one going? Are you excited for it?
Really looking forward to it. It's such a big game because, as you say, if Rangers go to last week in isolation, I think will always be a fantastic result, even if just as Lyon is, even though Rangers didn't make it through the Champions League group that year and got beat 3-0 in the reverse leg at home. If Rangers were to go out tonight, that result would still be fantastic in comparison last week. But the opportunity to actually knock out Borussia Dortmund is even bigger, and for two reasons, I think. One is that they're the favourites for the competition, so who says Rangers can't go by a couple more rounds and pull off another couple of shocks? But also just in isolation, knocking out the second best team in Germany would be absolutely fantastic. And I think a real statement tie for Rangers, because Braga was I guess a statement tie in the way that Rangers came back, but Dortmund's just another level of opponent, isn't it? And then in terms, obviously the biggest game this week is Motherwell on Sunday, and I don't really know. Looking back to previous seasons when Rangers have beaten Braga but drawn with St Johnstone, I don't know how important the European form is to kind of, I don't know, supplementing the league form, but I don't think it can hurt. Hopefully this season, Rangers have a big squad, everyone back apart from a couple of players, which I know we'll touch upon. And yeah, I'm fully expecting a fantastic atmosphere at Ibrox. And I think if Rangers were to go and not knock Dortmund out tonight, whatever way that may be, whether it be on penalties, a 1-0 defeat, however it may be, go and beat Motherwell. Those couple of results just put a bit of distance between the recent drop points, which is really important at this stage of the season. So looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a really open game. I think supporters should expect a lot of nervous moments probably on both sides, because I think what last week showed is both teams are going to try and attack, and it'll likely be a shootout again.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just had a word in my ear from our producer, Joshua. We've actually got a deal on now for the Rangers Review site. It's just £1 for 2 months. So we've got another promotional offer on, folks. Head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe to take advantage of that. We had the press conferences yesterday, Joshua, from both managers, Marco Rosa and Giovanni Van Bronckhorst. A big talking point coming out from the Rangers one. I asked him if Aaron Ramsey will feature tonight, and he said no. Are you slightly concerned that we're not going to see him not only tonight, we've never seen him on Sunday. We've only seen him at Annan in 3 cameo sub appearances against Dortmund, Hearts and Hibs. Is that a slight concern for you?
I think it has to be. We were speaking off air, Derek, and if Aaron Ramsey was to go and score, come off the bench on Sunday or start on Sunday and score, and make an impact in an old firm. No one remembers this stage where he's not in the squad. But if he doesn't, then it becomes a big issue. And it's with risk reward signings, you always want to think about the rewards and not the risk. I think everyone naturally gets caught up in it because of the nature of the signing. But I don't think that's that's not necessarily a bad thing or a naive thing. And Ramsey could have maybe arrived at Ibrox, and had he been a little bit fitter, would have started a couple of games by now. But as you say, he's not in the squad tonight. I don't actually know if he would have started tonight. I know he's brought in to play big games, but I think that midfield worked so well last week. Maybe he's coming off the right in place of Scott Arfield, who I do think looked a little bit tired. But he's not. So hopefully he's back for Motherwell on Sunday. I do expect, I know we'll get to our teams, I do expect a couple of changes tonight. But as we've discussed on Ahmad and Ramsey in the last few days, Derek, it's all about what they do between now and the end of the season. They've both, I think Ahmad's shown flashes, and Ramsey obviously throughout his career. Everyone knows the quality of player he is. It's just about turning that into points for Rangers over the next 11 league games, and hopefully 3 more league games in the Cup, and hopefully a couple more in the Europa League. So there is still time for them to make an impact. But I guess at this stage of the season, it's so hard to bed into a team. There's no time to really make an impact. And when you're injured, that certainly doesn't help, does it?
Yeah. We'll talk about who we expect to see lining up for Rangers this evening shortly, Joshua, but I wanted to touch on a question that Giovanni van Bronckhorst was asked yesterday with regards to how he approaches the game. Could sitting in be asking for trouble? And he says, I think sometimes you get in positions and moments in games where you have to sit deep, but I think what we did last week was press him a little bit higher at the right time, try to win the ball and be dangerous. To begin the game and sit deep, I don't think that's in our system, so we have to avoid that. How do you see Rangers approaching this one? Do you see them just trying to protect that 2-goal lead? I think that is a risky game from the outset. I think the best form of defence is attack. Joshua, where do you stand on that?
Well, I think it's a really interesting point that Van Bronckhorst raises, and it's something that he's referenced in relation to individual players in terms of recognising when to press and when to fall back into shape. He's spoken about that in terms of individuals a few times recently. And what I think he means by that is that Rangers can have this game plan where, as seen last week, at times Ryan Kent will come off of the left wing and try and press the centre back to make the pitch small and either force Dortmund long, or as they did for the fourth goal, win possession back, as Kent did, although it wasn't the centre back, it was the right winger. I think that takes a lot of individual leadership at times on the pitch. They'll have certain, players that they know when they get the ball, it's time for Rangers to press up and squeeze up the pitch. But I think it's so, and I wrote this in an opinion piece the other day, it's so hard to do that really well for the whole 90 minutes and not be cut open by Dortmund. And I think the only time they were really cut open in terms of a back-to-front move was when Jude Bellingham cut back. I think the game was still at 0-0. Jude Bellingham cut the ball back and Marco Reus somehow didn't get a touch on it. But you've seen at that point the speed that Dortmund moved through midfield, and you realise, okay, Rangers need to get this right when they push up. And that doesn't necessarily mean they always need to win the ball when they push up, but they need to, minimise the space and, as I say, force Dortmund long or trap one of their players. And I think they need to do that again tonight, because you've seen the 2 goals that Dortmund scored, although there's, if you were being really nitpicky, I'm sure Rangers will look back at that and say, this was poor and the lead up to the goal. But these things happen in football, especially against that level of opposition. But what you did see, Derek, was if Dortmund have any time in and around the box, they have the ability to score those goals, which are such kind of low value chances. But the quality of individuals, someone like Jude Bellingham, who's 18 and has 10 caps for England, or Guerrero, sorry, easy for you to say. Yeah, I need to say that. Portuguese international, excellent player. So if Rangers concede territory too easily, then I think it's just a recipe for disaster. Equally, what I think is really, really hard to replicate is that knowing when to press, playing aggressive, playing the high line and not being taken advantage of. But I think no Haaland is a real big boost, because it becomes far harder if you're leaving 40 yards of Ibrox turf to run for Erling Haaland to run into. Yeah.
When you mentioned Jude Bellingham there, did you see his comment yesterday walking out onto the the Ibrox pitch. He said, "What a gaff!" that sort of sent social media into a frenzy. I think get him signed, Joshua. I think that's a come and get me plea, is it not?
Yeah, well, I think he's one of these youngsters who just knows how to play the media game probably, but and does it well. It is a nice gaff, so he's spot on.
Yeah.
Maybe when he's 30, Derek, he can trudge up to Ibrox, and he's a fantastic player. I thought Lundstrom actually did really, really well up against him last week.
Yeah.
We see that Van Bronckhorst has tended to move to more of an industrious midfield too, aside from the one sitter and two number 8s, and certainly that's looked good in certain games because it does give you that element of physicality. So Lundstrom will need to have another big game tonight, and I think it will suit Rangers, although they've got the crowd's expectation, and the crowd have seen them score 4 goals against this opposition last week, so expectation will be high. Dortmund also have to score 2 goals. There's going to be space on the break. I think they might move to a back 3 as they did at the weekend, but if Ryan Kent and Alfredo Morelos are in that form again, then I find it hard to believe that Rangers don't score against this defence.
Yeah,
and Dortmund won 6-0, but as we highlighted on the site, it was some questionable Bundesliga defending, I think, to grant them such a significant victory.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about who you expect to line up tonight then, Joshua. There's a lot of debate whether Giovanni Van Bronckhorst should just play the same team that started in Dortmund. I know that Leon Balogun was back doing the presser yesterday. In my predicted lineups on the website, folks, I've got him back alongside Connor Goldson in the centre-half position with Calvin Bassey occupying the left-back role as more comfortable position. And saying that, I thought he had his best game in the Rangers jersey last week in Dortmund. Would you make any changes to the back line?
I don't know, because I thought Bassey was so good at centre back, and although I think Balogun's quick, really quick, I think Bassey's quicker. I think Bassey's probably quicker over the first 5 yards. And I also thought Borna Barisic, who hasn't had a good year since the turn of the year, thought he had a good game in Germany last week. And he was rested at the weekend. I don't think he played in that bounce game. Correct me if I'm wrong, Derek. On Monday against Brentford, I'm not sure.
Barisic?
Yeah, did he play left back? No. Okay. I don't know. I thought Arfield looks pretty tired on Sunday, and that's understandable given Arfield hardly played a game until November, and has played almost every game since November. So I would understand if he doesn't play, but also he's been really integral to setting the press for Rangers. Fashion Sakala is the only player I think off the top of my head who has better pressure numbers than Arfield. So if he was to come in, although he's a completely different player, I could see him still contributing off the ball. What Arfield I think does give you in that position when he comes inside, and this worked really well against Dortmund away from home, is he allows you to play through the pitch because he rotates inside. He either takes a man with him or he rotates inside free, and that allows Rangers to play through the press quite well. So thinking about it now, I wouldn't be too surprised if maybe one change is all that happens. Maybe Arfield starts and is taken off. I don't know if I see Ahmad or Sakala starting because, as I say, that playing through pressure has worked well for Rangers, and it also allows them to prioritise play down the left where Ryan Kent is, because they can move the ball across to him. In saying that, Dortmund, I'm sure they'd have been aware of Ryan Kent last week
Yes.
and have done their research, but I think the defenders will, their awareness will have been heightened by that because they've obviously played against them for 90 minutes. So maybe Rangers will have to tweak something, do something a little bit different. I expect Joe Rebo to be at the top of midfield, and probably Ryan Jacks played a lot of football for coming back from injury, but I think he's too important to not play tonight. Interesting again that we're having this discussion, and Glenn Kamara, who was one of Rangers' best performers in Europe and under Gerrard, one of the most integral players in the system in European football, isn't really in the conversation. So I wouldn't be too surprised if he was to come in, because he can definitely be trusted, really, really good at playing through pressure. But he's been on the bench a few games now, and I just wonder how long that can go on before there has to be some sort of solution there to get him back on the pitch.
Yeah, I've got Fashion Sakala coming in for Scott Arfield. I think it's much of a muchness with regards to that. I think Arfield, for me, looked leggy on Sunday. Now, I think he's a fantastic player, and there's no doubt he'll give absolutely everything this evening. I just think Sakala's pace might be useful tonight, Joshua, against that ropey Dortmund backline. Would you have any sort of reservations about playing Sakala this evening?
A little bit, because as I say, I just think sometimes if Rangers are to be pressed high up the pitch, how many times did Arfield relieve pressure by just offering those simple little passes and linking well with that, Jack, him, Tavernier, sometimes Morelos coming over, sometimes Aribo. I don't think Sakala gives you that, but equally, as you say, if there's some pace ahead of him, Sakala definitely eats it up. And I don't think he's clinical, but he certainly he can be incisive in moments and run quite direct. And he's played well off the right on some occasions. There could be a rabbit out the heart, or whatever you say. Maybe there's a switch of formation. Maybe Ahmad comes in off the right. Who knows? I think I don't see that happening because of the reaction to the youngster on Sunday, as we've already discussed, Eric. For me, it's so important that Ryan Jack plays, because I thought just playing out of pressure and what Jack did, I think the best last week was switch to play quickly. When Dortmund pressed up, they overloaded, as Rangers did, as we were saying earlier, when Kent would come off of his right back, who is his man to mark traditionally, pushed onto the centre back. And what Ryan Jack did in the reverse, when Dortmund were pressing Rangers and leaving a man free, he switched play so quickly to allow Rangers to play over on that left side. So you've seen that from Borna Barisic chance, which he should have scored from, and the lead up, I think, to the second goal off the top of my head. So how much Dortmund try to just imprint themselves on the game again and, tweak the defensive system. And I'm sure they'll say, look, we didn't have a good night, we made it easy for Rangers, and that's all well and good, but I think that's kind of it's a bit lazy in some respects, and a bit disingenuous of how good the opposition were.
Yeah.
And if they were to do that again, if they were to perhaps be slightly ignorant and think, look, all we need to do is play our best football and we'll win, then that might play into Rangers' hands, because Rangers certainly capitalised on that last week and worked so hard to get back into the defensive shape, which, let's not kid ourselves, Dortmund didn't. I mean, for that Barisic chance, Julian Brandt, who was running with him, stopped running about 30 yards from goal. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how Rose strikes that balance tonight. I don't think the crowd will affect them that much, because they're used to playing in big atmospheres, but maybe it will be a slightly different atmosphere. And as I've said, with the conditions up here in Glasgow, that might just add another element to the occasion.
Yeah, funny you should mention that. Marco Rosa and Marco Reus were up for the press conference yesterday, and Marco Reus was asked, the Rangers' high intensity last week take them by surprise, and he says it didn't surprise us. What surprised us was our not so great performance. We shocked ourselves, so we've got to play a lot better than that tomorrow. We've got to play our game, and if we do that, if we show that we are capable, what we're capable of, then we can win. So it sort of ties in what you've been saying there, Joshua. If they just expect us to turn up and play as they know they can do, then it may play into Rangers' hands somewhat. So I think it's going to be an open game. There's no doubt about it. I think there's going to be goals. I'd be surprised if it's a goalless draw. I think you'd get decent odds on that, that's for sure. And it's certainly going to be an absolute cracker. How much do you think the fans have a role to play tonight as well? The Dortmund manager and Marco Reus were asked about that, because of course they're playing in restricted crowds in Germany, and how they would react to that. I think they'd only thrive on a full house. It's what footballers want to do. It's why they play football, is to play in front of crowds like they will this evening. How much do you think that the fans have a role to play, Joshua?
Oh, huge. I mean, I think the last time I can remember this much build-up, aside from the Old Firm, to a game at Ibrox in terms of the crowd, was the Malmo game, the sellout back in the first sellout in ages. What was back in August, and
yeah,
that first half was really memorable in terms of noise. Obviously, halftime, I wouldn't remind everyone of the circumstances of how Rangers should have progressed in that game, but I think tonight there's big expectation. Tickets by all accounts have been like gold dust, really hard to get hold of. and I fully expect it to be an excellent atmosphere, the crowd in early, to really contribute to it. And you can't say that the Rangers team haven't fed off that in their in previous European games. They really have, so I think it could be a really big factor. And I think the thing is, the crowd will believe. If it would be completely different if this was maybe the first leg, and but the crowds have evidence that Rangers can go and hurt this team. I'm sure I hope they'll be patient with them in terms of, as you say, trusting when to press high, trusting when to set off. And hopefully they have a really memorable night to remember. I'm looking forward to it, but as I say, I think it'll be absolutely freezing, so I'm going to be wrapped up warm.
Yeah, and make sure you take care if you're making your way to Ibrox this evening, folks. The roads are treacherous out there. Okay, that'll do us there. Thanks to everyone for interacting with the programme as ever. Remember, we've got that fantastic offer on that just launched this morning, where you can take advantage of the Rangers Review site for just £1 for 2 months. Just head over to rangersreview.co.uk/subscribe. On the website this morning, we've got our predicted lineups. We've got a great tactical piece from Adam Thornton on Rangers' reliance on James Tavernier and Alfredo Morelos. And I've spoken to Dave McKinnon, who is part of the only Rangers team to dump Borussia Dortmund out of Europe way back in 1982. So a great tale from that game at Ibrox. A famous night then, and let's hope it's another famous night this evening. Okay, folks, thanks very much for your company. We'll be back again tomorrow to review tonight's action. But until then, enjoy the rest of your Thursday.